Day 20, guys, and we are still in this little series on different dieting techniques and methods. And I'm going to talk about vegetarianism. Not that I want to talk to you about making some kind of conversion into that, but I know we do have an increasing amount of people who are vegetarian or trying to apply those principles. So whether that's you now or it might be you in the future just wanting to try some things, I've got some experience with this, a lot of clients who have done different forms of vegetarianism, and I do think there's a lot we can learn there. So let me talk about my history real quick. Back when I think it was my first master's degree, I wanted to prove, because I was a young kind of blockhead bodybuilder trying to prove that we all need protein. There's always these perpetual debates and myths out there. But a lot of professors and so forth were still kind of hung up on this is the RDA and bodybuilders eat too much. And I'm getting some of my information from these magazines where people who are selling protein powder and so forth are telling you need a lot of protein. So not necessarily just with that kind of unethical drive, but just misinformation in general. And so I and all of my young academic valor wanted to go in there in my armor and on my white horse and show these professors how stupid they were and how wrong they were, and we needed protein. So almost in a cynical way, I decided I'm going to do my thesis as a 6-month experiment. I'm going to only eat 75 grams of protein a day, which at that time would have been about the RDA for me. And I'm even going to do it in a vegetarian way, because I want to show them how we need animal protein and so forth. I had some professors who were, against that. And so I thought this is going to be hilarious because I'm going to lose all this muscle. My hormonal panel is going to go way down and it's going to be tragic, and I'm going to prove that we need all this protein. So in that 6 months, hydrostatically weighed before and after, I lost about 15 pounds because it was also part of kind of a dieting phase for me. So my theory, my thesis would be, okay, first of all, I'm eating too little protein. It's not animal protein. And I'm even dieting. I'm losing 15 pounds, so I'm going to lose a ton of muscle. So at the end of the hydrostatic weighing, at the end, the data comes out, and I had not lost anything. I think I might have lost 1 pound of lean body mass, but it's within a 3% error range and so forth, so it was negligible. Out of 15 pounds lost, my protein coming down that far, no animal protein at all, was not even lacto-ovo. I was pure vegan. I showed that you don't need that much. So later on, for more socially conscious reasons, I decided, I'm gonna eliminate animal protein. And just experiment again, this time on the practicality. It wasn't just for social reasons. I thought, before it was so rigidly controlled, 75 grams, none of this, just to kind of research on my own, and I was planning on writing a book on vegetarianism. I thought, I'm going to do this, and I'll see what happens. But I still did that kind of quantitative and qualitative analysis on making sure I knew, exactly what was happening. So I got to the 6-month mark. Actually, even just went a couple weeks. I felt great. I'll tell you what, man. When you just stop eating tons of animal protein, you feel great. I can go into a Subway and just get a veggie sub. You're never without the food you need because you don't have to go out and centrally focus on protein. It's not always, hey, what am I going to have for my protein source? Is it going to be chicken or fish or this? Where's my protein? When you don't eat hardly any, you don't have to worry about that. So I went through this time, and this is great. This is fine. So then I get to my 8th, 9th, 10th month, and I just started feeling kind of bad. Lower energy. I felt like I was losing muscle, but I had wanted to go for a full year. So I went out for the full year where I could get my blood panel done and compare, because I thought, well, at least my triglycerides are going to be lower. I'm going to show the advantage of eating less animal protein and all this stuff. And I got to tell you guys, I was shocked that everything was identical, almost down to the digit. My blood sugar, blood lipids, LDLs, triglycerides, everything, there was zero improvement, zero change either way. And I'm talking down to some of the numbers were identical. And and I felt horrible. And then I started eating a little bit more animal protein, and I felt way, way, way better. So a couple points. First of all, my first test was for 6 months, first self-study. Second one was for much longer. So, and I did feel okay the first 6 months, then it got worse and worse and worse and worse. So I do think there is enough data and research to support the fact that just over time, chronic protein insufficiency, maybe not getting enough vitamin B, things like that, maybe low iron as well, just was a factor. I also wasn't very careful to really get what I needed. So if I had been, even with protein substitutes or being lacto-ovo at that point, I could have just made it a concerted effort to get more egg whites or protein powder. I could have felt better. So I'm not saying vegetarianism is horrible or undoable, but there are pros and cons to that. Like I said, the pro is that, number one, you could be healthier if you probably are including some kind of animal product. And I know this goes against some premises of vegetarianism, but we evolved eating animal protein and getting those things, even way back when we were just eating bugs. One of the things as scavengers, anthropologists say that we know Homo sapiens would eat bone marrow. So when one animal would kill another animal and we just came across, or our ancestors came across the remains, we would be eating bone marrow, scraps, we would eat termites, ants, anything you basically see a primate doing in the wild now. That's what we did, and we have that anthropological and even genome evidence of that. So you can't erase millions of years or hundreds of thousands of years of evolution and think just because you want to make a socially conscious change that your biology is going to be okay with it. So there are repercussions, and I think you have to keep that in mind to be healthy. So I love the fact that I could eat less protein, less cost, less this, just less socially conscious type things, if that's your concern. But it just wasn't good. I find that coming back to eating a little bit of protein from animal sources was better. So back to how to apply this. Number one, similar to intermittent fasting, I think what I proved, and definitely what the literature proves in total, we don't need as much protein. So going all the way back to what we talked about in the first series of this whole video block, we talked about protein and how the RDA is 0.8 grams per pound of body weight, and then the best science organizations say double that is okay. That's still not that much, but we have to get up to those levels, I think, if we want to thrive, especially as people who are athletic and active. So if you're going to be a vegetarian, then I would choose, if I were you, or consider choosing, lacto-ovo, so you can get some eggs, some dairy products, which would include protein powder, cheese, things like that. I think that would help immensely. I think you do have to watch some of those things, like your own subjective data, how you feel, how you sleep, even things down to sex drive, libido, things like that. And be responsible and get some blood work once in a while. Make sure you're okay. Make sure those things aren't going in a direction that is completely changeable by you adding a little protein. So I think it's something that everybody should consider doing at some point, just to see how you feel, is either eating less animal protein or trying some version of this. I think most people like it initially for the reasons I said, and then they eventually decide we've got to kind of have a meeting here in the middle somewhere and end up with some of the advantages of both sides. But I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. The last thing I would say is, with vegetarianism, be very careful not to eat a lot of processed fake meat. That is not healthy. Getting all this soy, which is very estrogen positive when it comes to things like potential for breast cancer and all that. Those are factors, as well as just fake processed meat substitutes like that are just not as good or healthy as other sources. So in terms of just getting more carbohydrates or something like that, or choosing a lacto-ovo route. So consider some of those things, guys, and we're going to talk about one or two more elements of different methodology, and then we're going to move on.